We've eclipsed 6 minutes of stoppage time. Maribo looking to chase this down, but time has run out on the Philadelphia Union playoff push.
These were the final words to the Union's 2024 season, a season that would go down in infamy as one of the worst in recent years. We missed the playoffs for the first time since 2017, and we finished with a 9-10-15 record, only getting 37 points in the season. Change needed to be made in order for a quick turnaround. But how would we do this? The first of these moves being made would be to get rid of current manager Jim Curtin, who had spent 10 years in charge of the club, and replace him with Bradley Carnell, former St. Louis manager, who guided them to first place in the Western Conference in their first season in the MLS. They unfortunately got bounced in the first round of the playoffs to Sporting Kansas City, their bitter rivals, but changes needed, and Bradley Carnell seemed to be the best fit for the club. The next place for the Union's front office to go after getting a new manager was to get rid of some old players. Some of these notable departures included Jack Elliott to the Chicago Fire, an Eastern Conference rival for the Union, Jack McGlynn to the Houston Dynamo, an MLS rival within itself, and Leon Flach to a top-flight Polish side. These were some of the very notable departures that would leave huge holes in the Union's team. Some acquisitions were going to be needed to be made in the offseason, and the Union would have to actually open up their pocketbooks if they wanted any chance of doing anything decent within the season. And that they did. The first of these signings would be Jan Glavinovic, a center back on loan throughout the 2025 season from Newell's Old Boys. He looks to have some promising potential, and hopefully he can live up to that. The next signing following swiftly after is Jovan Lukic from a Serbian side for $640K. Then, the big bucks would come out for Bruno Damiani, a Uruguayan forward from the Uruguayan club Nacional, for a club record fee of $3.4 million. This would be an all-time signing for the Union, previously breaking Mikael Ura's record of $2.1 million back in 2022. Bruno Damiani, he looks pretty good. Hopefully he can settle in nicely to the team. Finally, former Carnell man Indiana Vassilev from St. Louis City for $1 million in GAM. There were a few other Union 2-player signings, but these were the main ones from other clubs. Following all these signings made, the Union would look to the start of the 2025 MLS season, where they'd take on Orlando in match day 1. Expectations were extremely low going into this game, and within the first 8 minutes, those expectations would come true, as Marco Pasalic would score within the 8th. The Union would eventually call back to a 4-2 win, with Baribo equalizing in the 20th, Gazdag right out of halftime off of a Sullivan dime, and Ura capitalizing on a Orlando defender mistake. Baribo would then add another through an assist from Frankie Westfield to make a 4-2 final game. Marco Pasalic would get the other goal for Orlando. Following this electric performance on match day 1, we would get our first real test in our home opener versus Cincinnati, traditionally a strong squad. They would be dealing with a few injuries as they are participating in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but this wouldn't matter to the Union. We would end up getting a 4-1 win, with Baribo getting a hat-trick with goals in the 6th minute, the 30th minute, and the 52nd. He probably could have had a few more, had a few decisions and other plays going our way, but 4-1 win is a 4-1 win, and I'm guaranteeing he'll be happy with his hat-trick. Speaking of goals, Damiani would get a goal in his debut, as well as Cavan getting his first game of the season. This would be a really stellar performance from the Union with strong signs of a good season to come. Evander would get the goal for Cincinnati in the 58th minute following a few substitutions from Pat Noonan, but otherwise the Union played a phenomenal game. The next game on the schedule would see the Union taking on the New England Revolution. It would be a boring first half versus the Revs in Foxborough, but the second half would surely change that. Baribo would score in the 76th minute to tie an MLS record for the most goals in the first 3 games of a season. What a strange surprise, seeing how we all thought this season was going to begin. Following that in the 97th, Jovan Lukic, the new signing from the offseason, would score his first ever goal, and my God, was it a banger. It would seal the win and bring us to 3-0 for the first time in club history. On our return home, the Union would find themselves playing Nashville SC, which would turn out to be a controversial fixture early in the season. We would go down early to a Sam Surge strike within the 15th minute before Lukic equalizes through a thunderbolt off of a corner. This would bring him to 2 goals in 2 games and really cementing himself within that Union midfield. Ahmed Kassim would score before half to make it 2-1 before the real controversy would start. Quinn Sullivan would be dribbling down the right-hand side of the field before being taken out by Daniel Lovitz in the box. Lovitz got none of the ball and all of the man, and the referee wouldn't call anything. He would then, in fact, go to the monitor to review the call for VAR and stick with his decision of no penalty. 20 minutes later, Jacob Glesnes and Hani Mukhtar both went up for a header off of a throw-in. Glesnes got a bit of the man, but it was all fair as of being off of a header and off of a throw. Glesnes would then be called for this foul against Mukhtar, and Mukhtar would convert the penalty to make it 3-1. Minutes after this, with an added time, Chris Donovan would be taken out in the box, and Quinn Sullivan would get the chance to convert a penalty that he wouldn't have gotten earlier. Quinn, however, would go on to miss the pen, as well as Damiani getting his rebound saved by Joe Willis. A minute later after this, Makanya would get a red card in the 102nd minute for throwing the ball at Jacob Schaffelberg. This was a really, really bad game that affected the standings horribly, as Miami had a game in hand over us. After this game, the Union would find themselves taking on St. Louis City for the first time in club history. The Union would rebound during the international break with a 1-0 win versus St. Louis, Glavinovic scoring his first ever career goal in the 8th minute off of a corner, and that would be the only goal seen in the game. The Union could have easily scored more, but Ben Lunt is an amazing keeper. He played out of his mind in this game. Nothing too remarkable, but as we were dealing with a lot of departures due to international duty, this was a well-taken result and a good rebound from the loss versus Nashville the previous week. Next up, the Union would take on Inter Miami in the top of the Eastern Conference. Miami would have a few dangerous tackles, but no reds would be given, and the ref would continue this theme and let some very questionable things slide throughout the game. Robert Taylor would open the scoring in the 23rd minute, and the Union would find themselves losing 1-0 going into the half. Messi would be brought on in the 55th minute, and he would score 2 minutes later in the 57th. But Frankie Westfield's marking him. It's a rookie against the greatest player of all time. Not really going to get much out of that. The Union would keep pushing for at least one back, and Gazdag would get that goal in the 80th minute to bring the game to 2-1. Chris Donovan would ultimately cost the Union the game, though, as he had a wide-open net and completely missed the shot, shooting it into the keeper and a defender instead of the wide-open hole to their side. We would put up a good fight as we went on to lose 2-1, though, with some signs of some potentially good stuff to come. Following this game, the Union would take on Orlando City at home, an early rematch in the season that Coach Carnell commented on, saying that normally you'd face a team in match week 27 or 17, not match week 7. The game would result in a boring 0-0 with nothing really remarkable, but after the game, that's when the real news would start to pop off. Tom Bogert, trusted MLS insider, would tell us that Daniel Gazdag, Union's all-time record goal scorer, was traded to the Columbus Crew, an Eastern Conference rival, for $4.5 million. This would cause a lot of controversy amongst Union fans, as although we're happy to get the money, even though we know Sugarman won't sell it, use it for anything, it's to an Eastern Conference rival, and not just an Eastern Conference rival, but one that could also challenge for the title. This move would be shrouded in controversy, and even though it's still early, many are still very, very upset with it. And then adding on to this, Jan Glavinovic, the Union's new loanee at center back, would tear his meniscus, leaving him out for 2 months. We're lucky that it's only for 2 months, seeing that meniscus tears could be very, very bad for the individual and potentially season-ending. But this leaves our center back depth, which was already unnaturally thin, even thinner. Only 30-year-old Jacob Glesnes, far past his prime, Uwethu Makanya with very limited MLS experience, Nathan Harriel at center back, who is naturally a right back, and Neil Pierre, a 17-year-old who hasn't played a single minute of MLS play. Things are not looking good for us right now. After the boring performance against Orlando, the Union would find themselves taking on NYCFC at Yankee Stadium. It would be our first game without Daniel Gazdag, and the signs would really be showing. Our attack couldn't really get anything going, and we looked a bit strange off of the ball with Indiana Vasilev instead of Daniel. Nothing really remarkable happened in the first half before Andrew Rick would have a huge error with his positioning, leaving himself too far out of goal, where Alonso Martinez would get an amazing ball over the top and simply dribble around Rick and slot it into the net in the 55th minute, leading to the game's only goal. Matt Freese would prevent the Union from scoring any goals, but this little mistake from Andrew Rick would cost us the 3 points and drop us further in the standings. The Union were in desperate need of a bounce-back win, and against Atlanta at the Sub, this is what they'd get. Quinn Sullivan would get his first goal of the season on a volley off of a clearance in the 27th minute, bringing us to 1-0 at the half. This would then be followed up by Danley Jean-Jacques nutmegging Brad Guzan, the old 40-year-old bum, and this would be his first goal for the Union, coming in the 50th minute. Following this, a turn would be for the worst. Jovan Lukic would get sent off in the 56th for 2 stupid yellows, once for kicking the ball away and another for getting in front of a free kick. Both are stupid yellows to get, and getting both resulting in a red card is an even stupider price to pay. Following this, Ty Bariba would come off the bench, and he would score 7th goal of the season, leading the Golden Boot race in the 84th minute. Quinn Sullivan would get the assist for this goal, showing a dominant fashion from Quinn this game. He was easily our best player on the field, and he deserves to get the man of the match for this week. The Union currently find themselves 5th place in the Eastern Conference, 3 points off of 1st place. We're tied with Charlotte, who are the team in first, and Chicago with the most goals in the Eastern Conference at 16 goals. San Jose have the most goals in the Western Conference with 19, but we don't really care. We're focused on the East here. We're 5-3-1 on the season, leaving us at 16 points, 15 from the wins, 1 from the draw, and none from the ties, or the loss, obviously. Our next 3 games are against DC, who are in 13th place, and Montreal in 15th place. These should be pretty easy games to win. I expect nothing less than 16 points out of these, or 6 points out of these games. But for the keen nerd among you, you'll hear I said 3 games, and I only mentioned 2. This is because on May 7th, the Union will find themselves taking on Indy 11, a USL Championship side in the Open Cup. This should be a great way for us to get some new blood into the team, as well as another chance to win some silverware this season, being as we've never won the US Open Cup. Now, going into some further in-depth stats within the league, we've committed the 3rd most fouls in the league, but not that many called against us. This isn't ideal, but, it's working out. We're in 5th. We have the 3rd worst passing accuracy, but the 2nd most assists in the league. I think this comes down to the fact that a lot of our team isn't amazing at progressing the ball forward and finding those incisive passes, but Quinn and Wagner are just single-handedly carrying with their assist tallies, seeing as they have the 1st and 2nd most assists on the team, respectively. We have the 6th highest XG on the team, which we're slightly underperforming, as although we have 16 goals, which is obviously amazing, our XG is 18.13. Not phenomenal, but, most goals in the Eastern Conference, let's be real, not exactly horrible. With that being said, I want to highlight some of the good within this season. First part, and I think should be the most obvious one, Quinn Sullivan. What a season he's having. He's already got 1 goal and 5 assists for himself, and those 5 assists are already more than half of his total from last season. He's been easily our best chance creator besides Wagner on the team. He's been phenomenal. There's been no complaints other than maybe his decisions on the ball trying to take on people, but he more than makes up with it for how much he supplies to the team in terms of chance making. The second bit I want to highlight is that CDM double pivot. They're controlling games phenomenally. They're one of the best parts of this team, honestly. Danley came in last year. He was doing all right, coming off the bench mainly. But now that he's paired with Jovan Lukic in that midfield pivot, they're complementing each other perfectly, and it's honestly one of the best things I've seen from this midfield in a while. They're great offensively. Jovan's got himself 2 goals in the season. Danley just grabbed his first. Defensively, they're amazing. They're stopping teams left, right, and center, putting in constant tackles. On the ball, making great passes, and like I said, the goal scoring from the 2 of them. And off the ball, they're getting themselves in the right positions. They're taking out certain star players that we would be normally worried about from the game, and they're just doing a phenomenal job in every way that a CDM should be doing, and they're amazing, honestly. Well, honestly, like one of the best parts of this team. Finally, to cap off the good, we've got Ty Bariba. He's got 7 goals. He's got the most goals in the league. He had a bit of a cold streak when Wagner went injured, but I think that just says more about how much Wagner supplies to the team rather than is he overrated or not. He's doing phenomenal. He never runs out of energy. One of the brightest bits of this team that we should try and keep around for this season. Absolute phenomenal players, these 4. With all this being said, though, I would like to also highlight some of the bad parts within the season. The first of which that I'd like to put some light on is Bradley Carnell being somewhat of a one-trick pony. We had a great start, but once teams figured us out with just fouls and clean ones at that and spreading them out amongst players, we just kind of went into a bit of a stalemate before we just got into this recent bit of decent form. And during that stalemate, he didn't really make any changes or adapt to it. He just kind of let it happen, didn't have much of a say in it, I guess. And the other final thing I'd want to make light on is our center back depth. I talked about it previously, I think at the end of the Orlando game, but it needs to be said again, especially if we're talking about bad parts. It's severely lacking, and what we're left with now after the Glavinovic injury is a lot of inexperience, and the ones that aren't are just old, and it's not helping in any way, and it's leading to a lot of goals from transition, which I think is our biggest weakness. Like, in terms of getting scored on, it's really not there at all, and we need to get something sorted out about this before it gets really, really bad. But with all that being said, I want to wrap up the video there. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. I know it's a lot longer than my normal ones, but I wanted to get something back to normal. If you like it, please consider watching more, subscribing, literally anything to support, I think I'll be back to make a DC recap looking forward to the Montreal game and more stuff like that. I'll definitely be coming back soon, though. This has been a lot of fun. I just had to take some time away from it. But thank you very much, and I'll see you at the next video.